terms of parenting styles, I think what I found is every family is different.
Hello, everyone. Good day, good morning, good afternoon. From wherever you are watching, my name is Penny Ajayi, and in today's video, I have a special guest that um, I'll be introducing to you soon. And as you can see, the topic that we'll be discussing today, I have Dr. Tomi Omoya on the channel today. And hello, Dr. Tomi. In fact, let me be honest, I'm so happy that we are doing this. It's been a long time coming, honestly.
I know. We've been trying to get this to happen, and I'm so
Honestly,
excited that we finally got to have this conversation.
yes, yes. So, guys, Dr. Tomi Omoya is based in Australia and she is a lecturer. But I'll be giving her the time to introduce herself and, just know a little about her background. So, Dr. Tomi, over to you. Please introduce.
Over to me. Thank you so much. Kenny is my very, very dear friend, and we've known each other for quite a while. I'm Tommy, like Kenny said, and I am a lecturer in nursing, and I'm also a nurse. And I'm a wife, a mother to three young boys as well. So that's a bit about me. It's a very interesting phase in my life at the moment. It's busy, and I know it's busy for most of us at this phase of our lives. But um, God has been good. It's been good. Honestly, God has been good. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, that's
Thank you very much, Tommy. Once again, I'm so happy to have you here, and I know we're going to have a good time. So we are just discussing on raising children in the Western world. As she said, she's a mother of three. She was raised in Nigeria. So let's
yeah.
let's take note of that.
Yeah.
Before she moved to Australia, and with our wonderful husband. I know him. We are family.
Yes. Yeah.
Each other so well. So
Mm.
he'll be telling us because she can relate. She was raised in Nigeria. Now she's raising her children in Australia. So she just wants to be aware because right now, if someone will agree with me, people are taking opportunities to, go to developed countries to better their lives, and I think the countries, a lot of countries now, they are softening their immigration policies to accommodate more immigrants. So people are taking opportunities. They are moving with their families. They're going to study, and there'll be a lot of people will be raising children in this part of the country, so that we are aware and then can just pick one or two things and take it up from there, so that you'll be shocked. There's what we call shock, shock.
Shock factor.
You were raised in Nigeria. What
Yes.
difference can you see in the way children are raised over there and how you were raised? What are some of the differences that you really can talk about?
And so I think to start with, I think there are significant contrasts. It's very, very different. Um, when I think back and looking at growing up, we grew up in where culture was very there were things that were in place that were very, very important. And especially I think as a Yoruba girl as well, I think maybe within Nigeria it's similar, but I think Yoruba, we classify respect to it's just another level. So you grow up with tremendous amount of awareness of where you stand when it comes to the level of where your parents are and where you are and where every other elder person is. So there's a significant amount of respect that I think we grew up with in terms of respect for elders, and again, the way it was instilled into us, though, I think it's very, very different. It's not instilled into us with conversations. There was no conversations. It wasn't instilled into us with you know, let's reason together. It wasn't about reasoning together. It was instilled into us with that fear factor, with good spanking, good discipline of, okay, look, this is the way it is, there's no question, and that's the way it is. You don't ask questions, you don't table your request or where you're coming from. No, it wasn't like that. It was a very different way of being brought up, and that's what we knew. So I think, really quickly, to answer your question, it's very different. We grew up in those constraints, and it's very different from um coming into a different area and seeing the way kids are being raised in this part of the world. Yeah,
Can
I
you
think
just,
that's the first thing.
yeah. So I want you to give me maybe an example of,
Okay,
because I know maybe something like, I don't know if it's the same over there, but I know that they encourage kind of independent life over.
okay,
We I want to use Nigeria. Um,
okay.
Person can live can still be with living with your parents till like 2025, 26,
Mm-hmm.
they're married. But
Yes.
I stand
Yeah.
to be corrected. I don't know if over there from 18 you're free to go out there, get a life, start working, start. But you are 18, a lot of people still show their parents, their little ones, like cannot go to the world
Mm.
and start working unless maybe you're learning something. So I
Yes.
want like, can you give us an example, something that particular that you saw or something you experienced? Sorry.
Okay. I think here the norm here is that when you're 18, that's the age when you're not you've become an adult. That's a transition age where you're no longer under so to speak, under your parents as such. You've become an adult, and now you can go out on your own. You don't need that legal person to be behind you saying, signing things off for you or doing all of those things. You are an adult, you are classified as an adult. So here, because we have that classification as an adult, it's easy for people to navigate and say, okay, now I'm an adult because that's what society says I am. So people can step out and go and say, okay, I can be independent now. I can go and make my money. I can go and start working. I can do whatever I want to do by myself because I am an adult, and the society is designed in a way for me to function. But what I know from us is that back home at 18, you're probably not employed. Even people who have finished university can't get a job because they have the skill set, and the society is not designed for them to live. You're still meant to be dependent, even though, yes, you're set to be an adult, but the society is not really designed for you to step outside of your parents sort of confines of your parents. So you still need them for shelter, clothing, for schooling, for all of that. Whereas here, the society is designed in such a way that if you're 18, you'll be able, there are jobs that are sort of specifically designed for people who are 18 years old. The university education, you don't have to pay upfront. There are things that you can do. So I think that, yes, so it's really different. It's not the same. Here, you can go out and be 18 and survive. But then, do I think at 18 years old, for me personally, do I think I was ready? I would have been ready to leave. Potentially, yes, I could. But I think I would still say it was better at that 18 to still be with my family, be with my parents, still be guided, and still have the comfort of family. I mean, I was working at 18. I was, basically doing most things that an 18-year-old here, because I was, by the time I came here, I was 17 and a half when I came. So I was 18, well into 18. So again, I still didn't leave because I still enjoy the confines of being with my parents, being with my siblings, having that family oriented environment. But I think a lot of people that I've spoken to, this is just generally, will leave at 18. Sometimes it's the dysfunction that makes people leave, honestly. There's a lot of dysfunctionality that I've seen. It could just be maybe the family structure is not working. There's a lot of dysfunctionality, and people can't wait to get out. They're just like, I just want to get out of this dysfunction. I want to be on my own. I want to be independent. I think if there's love and a lot of support, sometimes maybe people don't might not be quite in a hurry. I mean, not hesitate, might not be in a hurry to leave because they still enjoy that love within the family. But I'm not speaking for everyone. I think some people, whether regardless of they get love or not, they just feel as if they need that to go. But a lot of people that I've sort of spoken to tend to always say that they haven't really enjoyed a lot of functionality in terms of being in the family sort of space, and they decided to just leave and do their own thing. Yeah.
Thank you for
Mm.
that. So what I get now is that sometimes it's as a result of maybe the family life, they are not enjoying that family life. So
Yeah.
some
Mhm.
leave, some still. It's not that not necessarily everybody leaves at 18. Some still
Yes.
stay till okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah.
the term 18 being an adult, I think it really stands and works over there compared to, okay, I don't want
Yes.
to compare. It's still kind of, there's a little bit of responsibility attached to that 18 to
Absolutely.
18. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so thank
Mm.
you for that. So, I want to also ask, since you are in the academic line, uh, how do you see, what are the academic expectations from parents to children? I want to say that, okay, looking at here, parents believe that you need to get your, you need to go to university, you need to do
Mm-hmm.
masters, you need to do your NYC. Like they just expect that if you don't do this, maybe there's a problem somewhere. So I wanted to shed more light on that. What's the I know that if now that you're in the academic field, you need to further your education. But is it
Mm-hmm.
compulsory? Is that the tool to excelling in life or something? So please just help us shed the light on that.
Look, I think here, especially in sort of in a country that functions really well, it's designed in such a way that regardless of whatever you choose to do, um, you will be able to at least have a life where you can at least you're comfortable enough to say, okay, I can afford it, 3 square meals, I can pay my bills, I can afford mortgage. And it doesn't mean that you've been to school to be able to do that, or you've gone to uni to be able to do that. And I think it's because of the structure of the way the country is set. You don't have to be a master's or a PhD holder or whatever to be comfortable. No, it's actually the opposite. A lot of people who haven't even gone to school, who are business owners, flourish a lot better, to be honest, because the society is designed in such a way that whatever you choose to do, as long as you're working, you will still be able to comfortably afford what you need, the basics, the basic necessity of life. You will still be able to afford those things. So I think in a way, it's not, so people are not really desperate to go and get an education. A lot of people that I see who go into education most of the time might be people who have actually come from places where that's the only thing we know that can open doors or maybe afford you opportunities. And that's because we've always been told that as well. I know that there are some things that you can't do without education. Absolutely. There are some doors that you might not be able to enter into. There are still some things that, yes, definitely I would say go get an education. But if you ask me in this present Western world that we are living in, that if you don't have an education, does that mean that you're not gonna be able to afford the necessity and the basic needs of life? I would say no. Definitely a big fat no. A lot of people don't have to go to uni to be successful. They don't have to go to uni to be okay and to be good and productive in life. They don't have to. No.
Thank you very much. Please, can you just run us through the academic, maybe starting from maybe childcare or something? Can you run us through the education line, how it goes, maybe
So in terms of education, I can sort of speak to some extent in terms of growing up because I've got kids that have been sort of treading through the system without being an expert in those areas in terms of the little kids. What I've found is um, education system here, honestly, it's not about, I went for an orientation for my little one the other day who's starting school soon. And it was very valuable, the information that we're being told, kids learn at different pace. They are different, if learning is not something that's fixed. You don't have to get it just here. Some people will get it now. Some people, it will take them just a bit longer to get. Learning is a lifelong process. If you don't get it right at this minute, you will get it. So, and I think it was really good to hear that because that wasn't the way it's different from the way we grew up. You know how it is.
yeah.
If we cram everything. Oh, this is the textbook. I remember this Ababio textbook. I think that was the chemistry.
Science student.
I grew up with, so it's like if you don't know it now for that exam, that's the end. You have to know it. You have to be able to cram everything and get it right down for that exam and then move on. But again, when she was talking to, she goes, it's a lifelong learning process. I thought that was a really good way to approach learning. So here, what I found is the approach to learning is on strength-based learning. So they look at the child, see where their strengths are, and they work with them from that area as well. Rather than trying to box everyone into an area and say, oh, you have to be good at this, everyone's good at this, and that's the way it is. So from my little experience so far, that's what I've seen. Now moving into academia and higher education, I've seen as well adult learning is very much adult independent learning.
Yeah.
You have to take, yes, it's structured. Yeah. You've got, it could be 8 weeks in a semester, for example. So you've got that 8 weeks, and that's what you're going to be learning for the 8 weeks. And you're going to submit your assignment at this point in time. But, you're given the pre-tutorial work before you come to class. There's a set pre-tutorial workshop. It's expected that you do that reading, you do the pre-tutorial work. So you come into tutorials and into the class with a bit of background knowledge about what you're going to do in class. You come to class, there's discussions, there's group activities. So it's not something that, you're sitting down for hours. It could be a lecture, that's different, but often it's balanced. You get your lectures, you get your workshops, you get your tutorials where you get to practice all of those learning outcomes. So again, the system here that I've found is very much student orientated. It's not lecturer orientated. It's not the university orientated. It's about the student as well and making sure that they actually meet their goals. I remember when I was doing my PhD, I changed my candidature so many times. Sometimes I go from part-time to full-time, and COVID came. I'm like, oh, COVID is not allowing me to do anything. And they changed me back to part-time again. So again, just imagine how student focused everyone is working so you can achieve your goal.
Yeah.
Everything is about making sure that you achieve your goal. And and I think sometimes it breaks my heart. I was speaking to a good friend of ours, and I think if you've seen the recent post that I just did, and it really breaks my heart when you think about how the system is actually not built for you. It's almost the system works against you in a way, isn't it? It's not there to really push you through and support you.
Yeah.
And for me, I think about what I've experienced in Australia. It's the opposite. I've experienced support. I've experienced, oh, you want to go part time for a period of time? Absolutely. Let's work out. Let's sit down and make it work for you. Oh, you need this. Let's do that. Is this what's going to make it easier for you? Let's do that. So again, I think it's very student oriented and student centered. And it really helps and it supports. It's
Yeah.
about supporting you to make sure that you finish and you get through. So I think that's been my experience in higher research and academia in higher degree research and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I think you've said it all. Unfortunately, the system doesn't support. I mean, and that's the reason why a lot of people are leaving to get better
Yes.
education out there.
Mm.
So I hope one of our leaders gets watch this and hear this.
You know, I think we just have to keep saying and talking
Yeah,
and doing our own little bit wherever we are. Like I said,
yeah,
someone was asking me, so what? Everything that you're doing this. Why are you doing it? So look, the reason why we are is not because we want to suddenly change the whole world, but I think
yeah.
it's about doing the little bit that we can
Little,
do in
yeah,
our own area.
yeah,
That's it,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
And that's all we can do. Mm.
Thank you, Tommy. Um, I have so much, so a lot of questions for you. Sorry,
That's
but
fine. We'll get to
we,
them.
I want to ask, what is the parenting style like? You've met with a lot of parents. You've met with two parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you observed? How is their parenting style? Is it the authoritative thing, like you must do this, I need you to get this done, or what are some things?
What are some?
Yeah,
I think generally from the society that I've seen, and maybe because of the circle that I'm in as well, I probably maybe haven't been exposed to maybe what other people do, but from my own circle that I've seen that parenting styles is still very much dependent on each person, each family, the choice that each family wants to make and what they want to see in their children. You see in some families, mom might be stricter, dad might not be as strict, or dad's strict and mom might not be as strict, or they're both strict. It just depends on each family, I find. In terms of parenting styles, I think what I found is every family is different. And I think that's the interesting thing with raising kids, isn't it? We have that we have we almost we've got that position where we're able to guide, we're able to lead, we're able to show by example, isn't it? For me, it's a bit of a challenge because I've grown up in a society where the style of parenting is very much different. And it's almost like it takes a reorientation in your mind. It takes a bit of you even trying to reorientate yourself
so,
from what you know,
so
because what you know is okay, this is the way, and that's how you know. That's what you've been taught. That's what you saw your parents do. And you've turned out, I mean, I was spanked, I was disciplined and all of that. And I've turned out to be, honestly, to be um someone that's contributed to society in a good way. I haven't turned out in any way that would probably be detrimental.
yeah,
But one thing that I've noticed is in the society that we are in, it's very different. Back home, it's the norm to have those sort of treatment growing up that way, to be spanked, to get really proper spanking if
yeah,
you do something wrong. And everyone within that system as well it's the same. It's built to support that. You went to school, it's similar. You came back home, it's the same. But here it's different. If you're doing a lot of, if you're doing the spanking and the beating at home, you think you can beat the kids, and they go to school and they get to school and say, oh, my mom is beating me, or my mom is spanking me, or my mom is hitting me, it could cause trouble. So you have to really reorientate yourself in the sense that, okay, I'm in a different setting, I'm in a different environment. What tools do I need to use that I will still be able to have to achieve what I know is important in terms of raising these kids? So for me, consistency is really important. You have to be consistent in terms of, okay, if you do this, these are the rules. If you do what you know you're not supposed to do, these are the consequences. So again, it took me some time, and sometimes I'm tempted. I'm like, oh, just step back.
Holy Spirit activate.
Holy Spirit activate. Just step back and, okay, what are we doing here? Because the kids, they can push you. You think you're patient, you think you're mature,
Yeah.
but I say to people, start having little 2-year-olds, start having little 3-year-olds, and you can tell me if you're a patient person or if you're very, very calm. So it's taken me quite a bit of time to get there. And now what we usually do, it's about putting consequences in place and following through. Because, okay, so for example, if they do something that they know that they shouldn't do, they know that there's consequences already, and we follow through those consequences. Because if we don't follow through, they know that, oh, they're going to relax, I can get away with it. And I find sometimes those consequences is even more than spanking. If you spank sometimes, you go, oh, spank, and it's gone. And they cry and they forget about it. But really, those consequences I find sometimes, it really sits in, it allows them to understand what the gravity of what they've done. Because sometimes I think they spank and it goes away and they forget about it and you don't even get to talk about it. So I was saying that sometimes even when you smack, you find that it doesn't take long. They don't really understand the consequence of what they've done. You smack, it's all gone. But when you're teaching the consequences, it takes longer, I find, but it's beneficial in the long run. And this is where I'm saying where the conversation comes into play, where when we have, when they're standing their ground, you're standing your ground as well, because no one wants to give up. We're both saying this is what I want you to do, and they want to do something else. And okay, so it results in having been disciplined. Maybe I use naughty corners. I take the privileges away. And then they start crying and they get upset. Or I say, okay, that's it. You're going to sleep. There's no extra time. All of those things I use as tools to help. Yeah. So when they go to sleep, or maybe when they're in that naughty corner, they spend a certain amount of time, depending on the gravity of what they've done. I sort of have the time limit. When they come out of naughty corners, we have conversations. So I don't just let it go. Oh. I say, okay, tell me, what did you do wrong? So then they explain. So why do you think, why do you think you've done this? So again, we have that conversation, which for me is very different from growing up the way we grew up. There's no conversation. You've done this wrong. That's it. That's the end. Yeah. And I find, after the conversation, I demand an apology. They apologize for what they've done. And then, sometimes they say, oh, mommy, I'm actually, even without asking them to say sorry, sometimes they're like, oh, I'm actually sorry for what's happened. But all of this took me a while, to be honest, to get there, because I know that the society that we are in, it's a different place that we are in, and I'm still working on it. I'm still getting there, because there are days when I just thought, oh, my good Lord, if you were in Africa right now, it would be a different story. So it's still really, yeah. Sorry.
I can relate to everything you are saying.
So it's taken me a while, but honestly, I'm learning. I'm getting there. I have to be intentional as well, just trying to really reorientate myself. But there are some things that I think, when it comes to safety, there are some things that you still have to be very, very careful about. And I remember there was a day we were trying to cross the road, and the little one was not looking, or just the older one didn't look, and he knew he should have looked. And for me, that's definitely a spank. I did spank him and say, you can't do that. I think when it comes to safety, you cannot not do, like, spank, and make sure that they really understand the gravity, that, okay, look, this is really way outside of what should have happened. So again, I think it's just really thinking about what they've done, the consequences, and being consistent. It's challenging, because this is what we know, and now we have to adapt, because we're here in a different setting. We have to adapt to the different setting that we're in. But again, we just remember the word of God. I think, like I said, it's really important these days. What I find is when they do something wrong, um, they had the sort of kids that will ask, they will say, they will ask why it is wrong. It's just, and it's where we are. I mean, we don't ask things like that.
Don't
We
ask
just
questions.
accept that it's wrong. And I find if I'm just trying to look for words from other places to tell them that it's wrong, sometimes it doesn't really quite cut it. So I say, I look at the Bible and say, look, this is what the Bible says. That's why it's wrong. And I think using that consistently really has helped to answer some of those questions when they go, but mommy, what did I do wrong? Why is it wrong? And then we go, remember, this is what the word of God says, that as a child of God, this is not right. You can't do this, you can't do this. And I think that's been one of the things that's been helping me. But it's challenging. It's challenging.
I like that you said that you have to orientate your mind, because this is something we are used to, honestly. I remember secondary school, I got so used to beating that whenever they beat me, I don't even cry anymore. I didn't cry. I was like, this is not just beating. Let's just do what we have to do. So I really appreciate that orientation and then consistency, and this having conversation with the children. I think it
Yes.
really helps them to express themselves, like, and feel comfortable talking with you, the parents. So thank you so much for that. And I was watching a YouTube channel, and this woman she's based in the UK, and
Yes.
she was complaining that um, the social care workers are taking the African children, and
Yeah.
and I was thinking, why African children? And like, so when she explained, she talked a little bit about what we are used to. So I mean, it takes time for parents to start adjusting to the fact that we are no more here. This is it's different here.
Yes.
You have to be. Sometimes children get to school and they just
They talk
notice,
about, yes.
yeah, they just noticing that the child is off, or something is off about the child. They just approach the child and start questioning the child till the child opens up, and before you know, it's just social care workers at your door and a bam bam bam. So
And the child, yeah.
God, yes. So for anyone trying to move to this part of the country, there's a lot of work to do. Like parents, there's a lot of orientation of adjusting, and a lot to learn and unlearn, so that you can be able to, able to function well in that new place. So
Absolutely.
so before we say the last word, I want to ask. I think you touched a little bit on that. What are some of the things or the values that you consciously impacted into your children as parents, as um, like your husband, your husband and
And
yourself? What are
yeah.
some of the values that you said, okay, I don't care where we are, you have to know this. This has to get into your head. So
That's to get.
yeah.
So, so I think for us, our culture is still really important, because And I think the wonderful thing is we get to pick and choose. And I think, as parents, we go, I like this, I'm going to take that. I'm not going to take that into the way, and I think that's what's good about having the privilege to parent, because you go, okay, I can take this. I'm going to leave this. I don't think this was beneficial for us. So, but I think one of the things that we saw for us is that culture of respect and acknowledging people. For now, we're at the stage where we're trying to really bring that waking up in the morning and greeting someone properly, not just because what I find sometimes, you do, some kids are good at this socially, some kids are good, you don't even have to tell them to say hello. They will say hello back. They will acknowledge people who are older than them respectfully. But I find we are at the stage where if we don't teach them those things now, it's going to look as if they are rude or they don't have those social etiquette. So I'm very intentional now about telling the boys, when someone says hello, you look them in the eye back, say hello to them. If someone's having a conversation with you, don't just walk away, acknowledge them, talk to them, and all of those social skills. I think that's where we are at the moment. So intentional about teaching them all of those skills that will make them function well within the society. So I think it's all about intentionality. So again, teaching them about being responsible. So, and for me, I don't like the fact that they say, oh, because they're older, they're more hardworking, or if they're in the middle, they're less hardworking, or because they're younger, they're not as hardworking. I don't think that's a good thing. It doesn't benefit any of the kids. It is equal. It's a case of, if the older one is doing something, I get the younger to assist and help out so that they're all functioning really well. It's not that someone is carrying the load because they're older and to the detriment of the younger ones, because at the end of the day, they're not going to be under us forever. We're going to have to release them, and hopefully as independent, well-functioning individuals. So I think for me, we're at that stage where we're really teaching those values where, you need to be able to do these things for yourself, not being lazy, be hardworking. And all of these things are in the Bible as well. It's not that we're saying it. We can open the Bible and tell them that, okay, a man who is hardworking, who is diligent in his ways, don't be lazy, because laziness and sluggard, all of those things, we can bring into what we're teaching them. So I think there's a lot that we have the opportunity to really impress into their heart and teach them. But I think main thing is, I think about the future. I think, okay, look, what am I producing for society? I don't want to produce liabilities. I don't think any one of us want to produce people who will not be able to function in a well-rounded way. So I think everything I do is guided by that. You want an individual who is not a liability in any way, but they can go out there, contribute to society, whether spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, in any way. And I think that's the goal, really, more than anything else.
Thank you, Tomi. I am happy that you included the spirituality also. I mean, it's also something that we should not leave out when raising our kids. I mean, I used to think that people like once sometimes when people just travel out of Nigeria, they feel like some prayer points are not needed. You don't need to pray.
Okay,
I'm
I
like,
think that's when you need extra prayer points.
I said, I'm like, is it
Hmm.
in heaven that you don't have challenges anymore, or is it?
Ah, hmm.
So I like that.
Hey, it's I think it's a different set of challenge because we
Yes,
see,
yes,
and it can be done. We've got good, great examples of children growing up here, and I go and tell their moms and dads, I say, thank you for what you're doing, because you're showing us that, you know we can do these things. Because sometimes you wonder, Kenny, I tell you, there's so much. Um, I don't think this conversation will be enough to talk about some of the disadvantages.
Yeah.
Um, but it is doable, and I think God gives that strength, and we've seen it already, and I think we can do it. We just need to rely on God, keep praying, um, and I think we will get there. Mm.
Okay. So I know I just want to add, I mean it's not part of what maybe we debate a little, but I just want to ask how do you and your husband, how do you um cope? How do you manage, raising kids, your job, your career, and every other thing? How do you manage it? In like, I don't know how to put it. I've heard so many people like it's difficult out there. You need to move out, make money, pay bills, and you have
Mm.
children. And I heard the childcare, what you pay for childcare is
Expensive. Mm.
so. How do you
Mm.
manage it? How do you cope? How do building a career? How do you manage all
Mm.
this? And then at the end of the day, you are still looking good.
Oh, it's the grace of God with
Thank God for grace.
packaging. Grace of God packaging.
It's thank God
I
for
tell you,
grace.
there are days, there are days when you just go, "Oh, I don't know if I can get through today." But you just keep going, don't you? And I think we all keep going as moms, isn't it? We just have that perseverance where we just keep going. But to answer your question, I think um it's I do, I mean, I just want to thank God for my husband, honestly, to start with.
Yeah,
um we are very supportive of each other, and I think that's important. And we we have one strong all together, in the sense that it's a common goal. It's not that we are going, once someone's going this way, another person's going that way, but because we are working together as a team,
yeah,
I think it makes it easier, the support together. And being in a country where you don't have the extra hand or the extra help, you have to help each other out. Those traditional roles don't always come into play.
yeah,
There's no, oh yes, mom's the main primary caregiver, of course, because at this stage they're so young, they probably need you a lot more. But you find that to be able to balance everything, you both of you have to come together and be one team. If there's something that needs to be done, whoever has the chance to do it, go ahead and do it. And I'm talking domestic duties as well. If there's something that's lacking in the house that needs to be done, it gets done. It's not about, oh, that's what you're supposed to do, or that's what I'm supposed to do. It's about working together as a team to make sure that we get to where we need to get to. So again, I think when people travel, they see that marriage is very different. Abroad marriage is very different from probably what it might look like in other places, because often you've only got each other. You might not have any other extra support. So you do really have to work together. Traditional roles might have to be thrown out of the
yeah.
window. You might just have to adopt whatever works for
For
you, and it's not what works for other people. You just have to sit down together and say, okay, this is where we are, what works for us as a family. And I think that's what it is. Abroad marriages, I think, are just different in that sense, because you just you're both working.
yeah,
It's just you don't have that extra support most of the time. It's just both of you most of the time. Okay. So I think you just have to really work together as a team.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
Mm.
thank you for pointing that out that abroad marriage is different. Everybody has on deck. You have to doing something.
It's hands on deck. Yeah.
And not say, oh, you are the man, go out, I'll be at home. No,
Mhm.
both of you have to be doing something. So finally,
Mm.
I have a statement that the research I did, and I want you to help me, whether it is wrong or right from all that you've seen from your experiences. It says that Australia happens to be number 9 in the best countries to raise children. So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's true?
Absolutely.
And why
Yes,
is
I do. I really do agree with you on that because remember, again, I was saying a country. How do you know a country that really has that really has those values, great values? They're the ones that look after the young, vulnerable young, and they hold elderly people. So again, it really shows you the value and the morals of a particular country, the way they treat the really really young and the really really elderly. So I think Australia is one of those where the lives of children and kids and young people, I think, is very very important in terms of making sure that they provide what's needed for them. So I think it's a society that really values the life of the young ones and the very old ones as well, because those are the most vulnerable people. So and if you're living in any country that really does that, I think that sort of country will keep thriving. It will keep thriving, it will keep doing well. And yes, so I do agree with you that Australia is definitely one of those countries to raise children because it's built for children to thrive, to really do well. There are systems and processes in place to really make sure that they look after their very young and very elderly. Mm,
it? Thank you
yeah.
so much. So, I hope you guys have heard this. Australia is a good country to raise. A lot to raise children. A lot of people say, "Oh, Australia is too far. We can't come there." Honestly, honestly, and now, I dream. I eat Australia, honestly. But I feel that
Yeah.
the immigration rules are kind of, I don't know. So for UK now, when you're going to study, you can go with your family.
Yeah.
Or Australia
Mhm.
is kind of, a little bit tight. They don't want to come with your whole family just because you want to come study.
No,
And
I think
okay,
people are not in the past few years now, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that, Australia, maybe I think sometimes it's just like a eating gem that's like eating away somewhere, and people haven't really tapped into it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think over the past few decades, I'm seeing a lot more people now starting to realize Australia is actually a good place to
Honestly, it
live.
is.
Um, it is. So I think a lot more people are coming more than what it used to be.
Yeah,
And I think the excuse then used to be, oh, it's so far away, it's the end of the
yeah,
world. But
yeah,
there's a lot more that's in there. I
yeah.
think that benefits more than it being so far away.
Definitely.
So I think a lot of people are still haven't really realized Australia. They still think, oh, it's just a far away dead end place. Um, but it's a lot better. I'm seeing a lot more awareness,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's definitely a lot better. Mm.
yeah. So guys, you've heard Australia is a good country. I don't even know why people are. Anyway, people really want to, when they want to go home, they want to go easily and then come back. But
Really, yes, that's true.
but I think there's more
Yeah,
to
but
that. What you
yeah,
benefit from that country. Um,
absolutely. And you get used to the traveling. As some people, I mean, if you're a lot older, it might not be as easy, but some people don't mind the travel, I guess, and people get used to it. Because you stopovers and
yeah,
yeah, it's not as bad. I think, when you've gone a few times back and forth, you get used to the travel. I think it
yeah,
doesn't really become an issue anymore.
yeah.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Tommy. So
Thank you. Thank you.
final words, relating to the topic for today, raising children in the Western world, Australia as a case
Mm.
study. So what's
Yes.
your final word? Yeah.
I think my final word is really it's about orientation, like you said. You're coming, you're thinking, oh, this is what I'm coming with. This is what I know. um when you're here, I think you have to be very conscious and aware of where you're coming and the way the system works here. So in terms of raising kids, you do really have to be aware of how things work here. Reorientate yourself. Think about the fact that, okay, can I still achieve what I'm trying to achieve in a different way, not necessarily the way that I know? Can I still try to do it and still achieve the same results? So again, you have to think about those things as well. And our values, we can still instill all of those values into our children. And for me as a Christian, those values and morals are just as important. And every day it's intentional. It's something that I do intentionally, we do intentionally. um Tell Even when we tell them off for something, we take it back to the word of God. We don't just tell them off and let it go. It ties back to the word of God. So it's that intentionality. And also I think one thing that I also wanted to ask, sorry that I forgot, I think is just, having time, I think, for the kids is really important as well, especially in this age of when they're very young, that 0 to 5 before they go to school, they say, which is the critical years. I think is very important. And sometimes I think as a mom, I say to myself, there are things that I know I could be doing, the jobs that I could have gone for, but I've had to sacrifice that, better paying money jobs. But I think about it, it's just for a short period of time. I might not have all of the money at this stage or have everything in that sense, but dedicating that time to them, I think, will be able to reap that benefit. And just like the Bible says, it says to train up your child, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. And even for us, the peace that we enjoy, that our parents are enjoying now, and that we are going to enjoy as well, is because of those training and the time and effort that they've spent in whichever way over us. So again, I think it's important that we spend that time so that we can enjoy peace in our later life, just like the book of Proverbs says. But yeah, that's really from me. Um, in terms of last words.
Thank you so much, Tommy. You said it all.
Thank you.
There's nothing more to say, honestly.
But, that's good.
You said it all.
I really enjoyed the conversation. It was really
Honestly, I
good
did
too.
too. I did too. And I appreciate you taking time to converse
It was a
with me.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
I believe people are going to learn from this, especially those who are making plans to relocate with their
oh, that's
families. Yes, so they are
yeah,
aware right now that things are different. It's different over there when
mm,
you are raising your
absolutely.
children. And
Mm-hmm.
Australia is a beautiful country, guys. Australia
Yes,
is a beautiful country. Try,
yes.
I mean, try to go there. And if you don't have plans for a country yet, I think you should look into Australia and then, try
Yeah.
to. So thank you so much, guys. And before I leave, Dr. Tomi Omoya is on YouTube. The channel name is
Thank
Dr.
you.
Tomi Omoya. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes, I just it's Tomi Omoya, and I just talk about research
Yes,
and
yes,
research in Africa, and yeah,
yes.
it's
So,
stuff around research.
yes. So, if you want
Hmm.
more information about research, you can go to our channel and then get a lot of tips. Thank you so much,
Thank
Tomi.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you. Thank you,
much.
Kelly. It was so good to catch up and talk.
Yes, thank you. Take my regards
Uh,
to everybody, my regards to
I
family.
will do. Yes.
Ah, thank you.
But yeah.
Bye.
Bye.